Hey friends, I've been thinking a lot about, mental illness. I hate that term. It should be mental difference, not mental illness. But I've been thinking a lot about it and about why I'm so hesitant to, go get diagnosed. And this came up in like a presentation at this conference I was at yesterday, which just added it to my mind even more, especially after having had like a really bad day on Friday where I did probably need assistance, or at least to, I did let someone I know, I did ask them, like, hey, I'm having a hard day. Will you keep an eye on me? If I get real weird or something, just. But, anyways, it cracks me up that my psychologist recognizes how, he's like, he's like, where do you get your depth from? Like, he recognizes like my intelligence and my brilliance in a lot of areas and stuff. And, yep, anytime I go in, our last talk, I even told him, I warned him, I was like, I'm a little extra today. I'm a little excited. He talks to me like he doesn't think I know that I'm bipolar. And I'm like, don't you think I'm smart enough to know what's wrong with me? Like, I know what's wrong with me. I know what's wrong with me better than anybody else knows what's wrong with me. Like, I've lived this life. I know what my experiences are. I know what all my experiences are. I know all the shit I've masked. I know all the stuff I keep to myself because I don't want people to worry about me. I don't want to feel vulnerable. I don't want to feel weak. I don't want to feel like there's something wrong with me, and I have lots of reasons for all of those things. But, the main thing that I want to talk about right now is, most people don't want to be diagnosed with a mental illness because most people don't feel like there's anything wrong with them. Just because they are different from you and they don't fit into the norm does not mean that they are ill. Doesn't mean that they're defective. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with them. Like we need to get rid of the whole mental illness thing. We're mentally different. I've known that I was bipolar since I was a kid. Definitely since my early teens. It runs in my family, and I didn't know the name of it at first, but I'll say this. Actually, before even getting a teenager, like when I was a young child, when I first started school, possibly even sooner, because honestly, now at this age, I've been reconnecting, and remembering, and walking through a lot of things I experienced in the past or whatever. And a lot of times I like to think of my childhood self and my teenage selves as like a different version of me. It's easier to step back and be objective and think about it. And when I think about it that way, I'm like, fuck yeah. In 2020, God told me when and I had my COVID experience and all of the spiritual stuff, God told me that I was autistic and I was something called a savant. And I had never even considered the fact that I might be autistic. I always knew I was different, and I have some issues that I've tried to get help with over the past, and I have suppressed my hand movements, or I guess they call these tics or stimming or whatever. Like, I've suppressed that. Like, I used to do these vocalization things or whatever. I've suppressed those. Like, there's a lot of things that I've suppressed or whatever. And but I remember being a very young child and realizing that I was more mature in some areas, not only more mature than my friends, but more mature than most of the adults in my life too. Like, I just had intuitive understanding of things, and I just knew things and could figure things out pretty easily and stuff like that. And God, I've really loved reconnecting and remembering young me and re-experiencing her from this adult perspective, where I can more fully appreciate her and, be wowed by her and thankful for her because, like she helped, she's the foundation of who I am. Yet she feels so far away from me. So it's been nice to reconnect and to feel more closely linked to my core. Anyways, yeah, guys, well, to see the thing is, I was so fucking mature and I was so freaking brilliant in so many areas, but I did not want to intimidate. I did not want to intimidate my friend group or my family and stuff like that. I kept a lot of shit to myself. I kept my thoughts to myself for a long time. I always thought I was an introvert, and I mean, I still kind of go back and forth. Maybe I'm an ambivert, but I think I trained myself I just trained myself to keep my thoughts to myself because I did not want to intimidate other people. Anyways, I always knew that I was different. And when I was young, I remember experiencing deep, deep, deep soul aching pain and isolation. And I remember noticing that other people did not seem to feel things as deeply as I did. And then I didn't know what bipolar was called at the time, but I realized that I felt more deeply than anybody else that I knew. And for a while, I was like, this is horrible. Like, I hate this pain. But then at a certain point, I had this thought. I was like, hold on a second. I thought that my emotional range was like this wide. And now all of a sudden I'm finding out that my capacity for like pain and grief is like way over here off the charts, and I started thinking, well, if my capacity for, like pain, sadness and stuff is this much further than I thought it was, like, does that mean I also have the capacity, to experience that much more joy? And that's been the problem in my life, guys, is hiding how fucking happy I am all the time. Because I went through I went through decades of like pain and isolation and stuff. And when I eventually, but I always had some joy buried in my heart. I mean, even when I was a teenager and I tried to kill myself, like every time I'd get so close. I mean, like I'd start to cut myself and strangle myself and stuff like that. I'd get so close, and every time I just couldn't do it because like I just had this core of joy, even if it was like buried deep under all of the like pain and trauma. It's like, what, life is beautiful. It's beautiful if for no other fact than the fact that we can experience pain, that we are capable of caring enough about whatever it is to feel pain in response to it. And so for me, bipolar disorder, I think it's a superpower. And there are other people that feel this way. We feel that it's a gift from God. It gives us an expansive range of feeling and etc. I learned how to ride the wave of mine, to utilize it in my art, and to like embrace these different phases that I go through. And honestly, it makes more sense to go through phases of like low and high than it does to be normal all the time. Because like, look at nature, look at the ocean, look at waves and stuff. It's like the tides, like this period, this is my, retreating within period, my introspective period or whatever. Now here I am flowing to the shore. This is my pushing things out. I mean, honestly, guys, I think those of you that are stable all the time are probably the ones that are ill. If we're going to say that someone's ill, I think it's you. So, yeah, how about we stop calling mental illness? We can call it mental difference. I don't know if neurodivergence is supposed to be like the same damn thing or whatever, but yeah, because words matter, labels matter. And I don't want to be labeled with an illness. I don't mind being labeled different, but I don't want to be labeled with an interest. I don't want a label that makes other people think that there's something wrong with me. So I imagine that most other people probably that struggle with these kind of things feel the same. So yeah. can we work on this?